Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, valued at a staggering $100 billion globally, the employee benefits industry is booming, and with auto-enrolment pensions coming down the track here in Ireland, further growth is anticipated. Luke Mackey is the chief executive of Yonder, an online platform which aims to automate employee benefits, and he joins us now to tell us more. Luke, before we discuss Yonder, I'd like to hear about your own background.
Thanks so much for having me on, Karl. Yeah, of course. So Yonder is actually the second company I started. The first company I started was directly out of college about 6 years ago now at this stage. And that was really focused on, a completely different vertical. It was technology for restaurants and coffee shops. I did that for about 4 years, and the whole focus there was to make it really easy for kind of busy professionals who worked in central business districts to order their lunch or coffee and then help the restaurant get as much output and throughput through their doors at those busy times. So I did that for 4 years, stepped away. I then joined a multinational, so Bolt, which was who I worked with for probably to go to 2 years. And I was a country manager for them. I was their employee number one in Ireland, and that was the whole focus there was growing the ride-hailing business in Ireland and then also bringing in other lines of business like e-bikes and e-scooters.
And what was the biggest learning that you took from your experience working in Bolt, a multinational company?
Obviously very different to what I did previously, going from a startup that was really my only kind of experience working with people, where a big team was the one I grew myself, and then going into a much bigger company. I think there was 2,000 people in the business when I started there, and I was the first person in the Irish market. So it was almost like building a new startup within the side of a big business. I suppose the things that I would have taken from that are around focus. Like there was a lot of playbooks, a lot of things that had worked in other markets, and we would have tried tested them out and kind of had very clear focus on what worked and what didn't, and retesting things, being very, I suppose, that's the word. But very, very, not being too stuck to your ideas, and when something didn't work, you just kill it and you move on to the next thing. And done is better than perfect sometimes when it comes to these projects. And running different experiments, if it didn't work, you kill it, you move on again. Then you do some real life tests, and if something does work, you go much bigger on it. And something also that struck me as well was it's a huge organization, but one of their core values is frugality. They don't like spending money on things they don't need to spend money on. So everything was always about making sure that we were spending as little as we possibly could, and that's how we were going to beat our competitors.
There were two very valuable lessons, I have to say, at an early stage in your career. Now, you then joined forces with Patrick O'Boyle and Deepak Baliga to establish Yonder. But what problem are you trying to solve with this?
Yeah, of course. So I actually worked with the guys previously, so we'd all worked together, and over like a 2 or 3 year period, we kind of all went our separate ways and did our own thing. So it was kind of perfect to come back together. We all had this same experience when we were, I suppose, in our mid-20s, and it was around that time where you start thinking of setting up a pension. I was setting it up for a big company. Deepak was in a growing scale-up company, and they were trying to set it up for their team there. Patrick was consulting, and he was trying to set up a pension for himself and get health insurance for himself. I think just what struck all of us was just how kind of, I would just say how traditional and how old school that a lot of the processes were to do this, and how it didn't really suit kind of companies today. So for small companies, really, the process right now can be kind of offline, sometimes tedious. If there's kind of, you jump on a call with brokers, or you have to go direct to providers, and that becomes quite messy and it's very offline. Well, usually everything in most digital businesses or businesses that use digital tools now, it's kind of all living in the web, and it's all something I can jump into. I can create an account. I can get access to things quite at my fingertips. And this whole domain is something that has still lives offline, still very much in a kind of a consulting side business. And what's changed as well, while this is all happening, COVID was happening. So companies were changing how they work. Everything went straight to remote. So people were able to work from home. And when people were able to work from home, they were also looking at, like, well, maybe why would I go and stay in Ireland and work from here? I can go and move to Portugal. I can move to Germany. And that also meant that not only do my employees want to relocate, but I can also hire from these markets too. So for all the small companies who are kind of growing, and maybe they're in kind of the knowledge worker space where they were able to hire designers and developers, and it was maybe technical first, they had this opportunity to hire talent elsewhere. And there was a lot of tools that were coming out to make that possible. but there was no tools to do the benefits piece. The benefits piece was still very offline. So if I wanted to offer that employee in Germany a pension or health insurance, it was still it was something that was completely new to me. It was something that was not easily documented. I may not have even spoken the language. I may not know what the compliant way it was doing it was. And that's kind of where we're starting. I'm kind of starting from first principles and going, okay, well, if we could start this again, this is a market that we're not reinventing anything really. This is health insurance and pensions and life insurance and these benefits we've provided to companies for quite some time. Particularly American companies who are bringing them to the Irish to Europe. It's how do we make this as easy as possible?
And Luke, is your plan to integrate this with a range of existing HR systems?
Yeah, so the way we actually work, I'll just give you a kind of overview. We make it really easy for companies to give their employees core benefits like pension and health insurance. We work with a number of different insurers. So in Ireland, we work with Irish Life, and in the UK, we work with other providers, and internationally, we work with other providers like Allianz as well. And we make it as easy as basically setting up an account in about 5 minutes, integrating with your existing HR tools. So you might use something like Bamboo HR, you might use Personio, you might not use any of these. But either way, you just jump in and easily add your teammates. You select the kind of benefits you want to offer, whether that's a health insurance contribution of whatever, €150 per month, a contribution to a pension of say it's 5% max, matched, and then the employee takes complete control. So you just add a billing method. You just get billed every month for what your employees are opted into, and then your employees get access to our mobile app. So kind of coming back to what I've done previously, which is kind of more in the consumer app space, we've built a completely consumer-grade mobile app for the employees to enroll themselves into these products and kind of manage these products.
And from a customer perspective, who will you be aiming Yonder at?
So right now where we're kind of seeing the pain point is anything from probably three sides. It's SMBs, so it's like small businesses who may not be able to, say, contribute a full amount towards an employee's health insurance or pension. They may only be able to do a small amount to say, like we've seen companies who are just want to offer like €80 towards health insurance for their team members, and this could be anything from coffee shops to barber shops. We've seen it from startups who are kind of at that like 10 to 15 person point, and they know that they kind of have to do more when it comes to benefits, and they want to say, okay, well, let's get the team health insurance, and we can do that by the platform and do instant enrollment, so it's set up in minutes. And then we're starting to see it at bigger company size, so companies where they kind of reach, say, 100 to 300 people. They're now in the multi-geo. They might have a hub in Ireland or in the UK, but they're hiring people in Portugal or Canada or Germany, and that becomes quite a mess when you're kind of a fast-scaling company and you're trying to get a hold of what's actually happening here administratively. And we can do all of this in one platform.
You very much welcome auto-enrolment pensions that the government is planning to introduce in Ireland over the coming years. That's definitely going to have an impact on the uptake of this.
Absolutely, yeah. The product is well suited for it. We'll already be in the market for the guts of a year or 2 years by the time that's rolled out. Though it still kind of remains to be seen on the complete, I suppose, design or operational design of how that will work. So, we're keeping a close eye on that.
Yonder recently completed a €2.6 million funding round, but what will this funding be used for?
So it's really expansion, Karl. Like, so right now the core product's built. It's all about integrations into insurers, and that's the beauty of what we do. It's a difficult business, but it's quite powerful for the user. When we integrate directly into the insurer, it means that there's no back and forth. There's kind of instant enrollment. If you go and enroll yourself on a plan on our platform, you're getting your documents sent straight away, and you're covered usually within 24 hours. So it's all about kind of this year entering those markets I mentioned, and then next year it's about kind of Central Europe. We'll see how it takes us.
But of course, you've got external investment, so I presume those external investors are thinking about their exit in 3 or 5 or 7 years' time?
I think it's different to maybe some of the investors who took on board are really long-term investors. They're people who invested in the likes of Spotify and Hopin and Workable and some really big companies in our space. And usually the time frames of the venture aren't exactly like, they're not 2 to 5 years. They're usually 8 to 10, 15 years. So sometimes they get opportunities to get out in between them. But right now we see ourselves building this for a very long time. So
what's the plan for international expansion?
So next year we'll the way it works. So we integrate into local providers to provide local solutions. So right now it's, as I mentioned, it's health insurance with Irish Life in Ireland, it's pension with Irish Life in Ireland. We have some providers in the UK as well. And then we have international health insurance, which is kind of a more vast product. And that means that we can immediately serve a larger scale of customer who are trying to provide it in say, a market outside of their home market. Our plan is to basically replicate the integrations we've done on local markets like in UK and Ireland, in some Central European countries too. So early next year, I'd say like by the middle of next year, we plan on having we're probably entering maybe between 2 and 6 countries with those types of integrations in Central Europe.
And Luke, finally, as a startup entrepreneur, what advice do you have for any aspiring entrepreneurs listening to this morning's programme?
Yeah, I'd say you probably hear it from me. I'm trying to be as ambitious as you possibly can. Think if you've got an idea and you think you're solving a problem, try to think about how it could be 10 times bigger, and really how big the market it can be solved. If you think too small, sometimes you fall right back into that, and you're only going to solve that market and solve that for a smaller market.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Luke Mackey from Yonder, and I look forward to seeing this business grow across the world over the coming years.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast.